Welcome into University of Hoops, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of your favorite basketball team. Today, we are very excited to welcome University of Florida head video coordinator Jordan Jacobson. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Blake. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, excited to have you on and share your story. Let's get right into it. You're right in the middle of your season with Florida. What does your day-to-day look like as the team's video coordinator?
Yeah, we're right in the thick of it right now. And kind of like along that, like it depends on the day. Like during the season, it all kind of comes down to being prepared for what the day holds. And what we're going to show the team film wise, being that video is my main responsibility. I'm preparing the presentations for everything that we're showing, making it as easy as possible for the staff to make sure that they're ready to show whatever we need in a way that's clear, organized, smooth. Um, the presentation and like how easy it is to understand what you're saying is obviously very important. So making sure that we're organized and that once it's time to like sit down and teach and make sure that we're as prepared as possible for the upcoming matchup. Everything's squared away in that sense. But depending on where we're at in the week, I'm coming in with an idea of everything that I may or may not need to have prepared so that when I'm here in the morning, I'm making sure, hey, do we have all the clips that we need in terms of, are we showing personnel today? Are we showing actions today? Do we have points that we want to make with practice clips from the past couple of days? Each assistant coach has a different philosophy in terms of their process and how open they are to input and how early they get things done too. So their process kind of dictates a little bit of my day to day. Between myself and our special assistant, we kind of have a breakdown of who's assigned to different areas of the scout for each of the assistants. So in a college season, each assistant coach, they split up, like we'll have an upcoming matchup that scout, quote unquote, is assigned to one of the assistants or one of the sports staff or the head coach, depending on just kind of where we're at. That's laid out at the beginning, so we'll know, like, all right, then this next scout is so and so coach's scout, this next scout is so and so, and each of them do that differently. So some coaches are very insistent in particular about their process and don't really need a whole lot of help or don't want a whole lot of help, and just want to know everything that's going on because they're the ones who's doing it. I'm not necessarily at the point where I'm making any decisions yet, but uh, I'm ready to like pull whatever clips they're asking for. If they're saying we need all of the backdoor cuts from this certain team, all of the assists, all of the forced turnovers from this certain team to help make the film illustrate the points that we're getting across to the team. That I'm here for all of that. And then some other coaches, their process is a little bit more open to my input on what they want in terms of what I think the points of emphasis, what points of emphasis I think are important. Give me a little bit of liberty over some clips that we show, et cetera, et cetera. And that just depends. Having an understanding for each of them, each member of our staff and their process definitely impacts my day to day. And that kind of all happens in front of all of my other like baseline responsibilities, like keeping our long-term databases, like troubleshooting problems that we run into with the tech, making sure that everything the staff is going to want to see is on their computers before they ask for it, hopefully. And overseeing the really good group of managers that I have helping me out in the video room. Obviously, we film every practice, we track everything that we do, making sure that all of our systems are in place for that, and that everything that we need, everything that we could possibly want to call back to in practice is disposable at our fingertips. And then on game days, aside from presenting all of the reports that we have one last time, or and going through our typical pregame process, I make sure that all of our bench technology setup is running the way that it needs to. Every team has a different bench setup, and like a lot of the guys, I think a lot of what you guys have done here so far is mostly NBA, and a lot of fans are kind of in tune to the guys having the iPads on the bench in the NBA. And that's kind of what video coordinators do there. And every college team has a different philosophy in terms of if they're able to do that, if how much the coaches are going to want those iPads. Um, we do have iPads set up on the bench, and I'm that guy a little bit in terms of just making sure that all of it runs smoothly. not in terms of like I'm that guy. Like I'm saying that I'm the guy who sets it all up. Um, and so we have everything that we need so that when something happens, an assistant turns around and says, "Let me see that again," and I got it and let him see it again. And we have two iPads on the bench that we wire to a computer that's live coding the game, clipping the video feed into every category that we want to watch, so that we can use that to review, to make in-game adjustments, make talking points to our players in real time. If myself or one of our assistants on the front of the bench grabs that iPad and wants to go run it over to a player who just got subbed out and show them something for when they get back in the game. Um, this That's kind of the video and the tech side, and then also I've got coach's whiteboard that I'm making sure gets to him as fast as possible every time out. I've got a board of my own with uh, the scout of each player, and I'll hold it up in the timeout based on like who's in the game, show who's guarding who, stuff like that, so that when they're looking out, when they're breaking the huddle and they're take one last look at the board and see who they're guarding are like, all right, it has a little rundown so that you know their tendencies, and try and make sure that you know what you're taking away, make it as easy to remember your responsibilities as possible. So I
A
kind of
lot.
dumped right there. If you got any questions on any of those particulars.
No, man, that's sweet. Definitely a lot of responsibilities as a video coordinator at the D1 level, of course. Everybody who's watching this, who's a hoops head, very familiar with the Florida Gators and the success that you guys have had throughout the years, and super helpful to hear more about what you do in your job. But now that we know more about where you are today, let's take it back to the beginning. Kind of
Mhm.
take people along your journey, man. How'd you get into basketball? I know that you ended up working at University of Michigan, just like one of our other guests on the show that we had,
Right.
Alex Bowman, who's now in the G League with the Indiana squad. So yeah,
Mhm.
take us through your journey, how you got to where you are, your time at Michigan, and so on.
Yeah, and yeah, before we get into that, I mean, Alex Bowman and I got brought into Michigan right around the same time. He was on one of your previous episodes. If anyone's listening right now and hasn't listened to that one yet, I'd advise you to take a pause and go listen to him. He's one of my best friends and one of the realest guys there is. So definitely shout out to him, and definitely go give him a watch or a listen, before you listen to whatever I'm gonna go on about for minutes. But yeah, I appreciate you asking. I think my experience jumping in. So I was a student manager when I was an undergrad, student assistant, different teams call it different things. And kind of my reason for getting into that is pretty similar to anybody who you'll probably hear who started kind of at that level. I played in high school. I wasn't good enough to play at the level that I necessarily wanted to go to. Dealt with a lot of injuries, was just kind of ready to um, put my playing days behind me. I got into a better school than I was going to. I got into a better school academically than my basketball talents were going to be able to take me to. And I got to college. I really missed the game, missed being a part of the team, and I pursued an opportunity to be involved however I could. I was at University of Michigan. I had known about what being a manager was because my dad was a student manager for his football team when he was in college. So I'd heard my whole life about how much he gained from that experience, how much he credits his growth as a person to the coaches that he worked for during those days. How some of his most cherished relationships to this day are people who were part of those teams that he was with in college, players, staff, and just that community. And when I got to Michigan, I thought that that was a path that I wanted to go down because it was Michigan football, and what was better than that, right? Um, and when I got to campus, I'd heard that there weren't as many opportunities for freshmen to be as involved as I had this, picture in my head of being. Um, and I wasn't sure exactly where I wanted to be. There's football staffs are huge, right? There's 100 people just on the team. And so there were a lot of different ways different avenues I could have pursued, equipment or whatever. Um, and by the time I had gotten accepted, I'd kind of had some time in college. But like by the time that that process for being a football manager had finished up, I'd had some time in college to adjust, to meet people, to feel things out a little bit. By that point, I was playing on 9 different intramural teams. And one of my best friends from my hall had just kind of by chance. I mean, you meet a lot of great people at a great place like that. One of my best friends from my hall was walking on to the basketball team. He had worked his way on from open tryouts, and we'd been working out together in the mornings a little bit, and just preparing for whatever potential opportunity he was going to get. We worked really hard to try and make sure he was as prepared as possible to help the team however he could. And the I just kind of felt that the atmosphere basketball was much more who I am than football, and the family atmosphere of it being kind of a smaller group. And that's not, right or wrong, but just kind of what I determined would be the best fit for me. So with the help of, a lot of people that I'd gotten the chance to meet and talk to, I applied, interviewed, got a little test period, and got brought on as a manager my sophomore year. And it turned out to be coach behind last year at Michigan. So my freshman year, where I wasn't fully involved, was that national championship year, where Michigan played Villanova, went on the run, and that was awesome to be not fully a part of, but it was an exciting time to be on campus and to be somewhat adjacent to it with the friends that I was able to make there. But that's a little bit about, yeah, I guess how I started at Michigan. And then from there, just learning a lot, multiple different, Coach Beyond left for the NBA, got another coaching staff coming in, and get the opportunity to stay on there. And then, yeah, that's by the experience of getting to watch them work, getting to see the impact that they were able to make on the players and everybody in the community and everything. I went into college with no idea of what I wanted to do career wise, just with a kind of a commitment to learn more about myself and learn what was important to me. And I love basketball, and getting the opportunity to see, all right, like, learn from some of the best to do it, and build a relationship with them and say, hey, that, like, I kind of have a little bit of clarity about how to try and chase this dream, and people who are willing to help me. It seemed like something that was worth pursuing, that I never really would have thought was possible, kind of before breaking in, getting my foot in that door.
Got it. So, once you sort of, took everything that you could out of Michigan, and you went through school there, and as you mentioned, you got a chance to work with Coach Beeline, Juwan Howard. Like, those are some big time names. And we talked to Alex about this, as you mentioned. Appreciate the plug for that other episode. But we went into it with Alex, what it was like for him
Yeah.
working, just getting to like luck out and work for those two coaches, and how that has impacted him as he's gone on to the G League. For you, being at Florida with Coach Golden, like, how did that come about? How did you make the transition? How did you get from Michigan to Florida? And I know, getting in the door as a grad assistant and then eventually moving into full time. Take people through how you made that happen for yourself.
Yeah, it's the the time in between, where, like, getting your foot in the door as a manager is wonderful, but there comes a time where, like, that foot in the door that's a temporary opportunity, right? Just like college is. And so there's a time where you have to make the jump from making the jump from student manager to grad assistant, or whatever you're jumping, and then making the jump from grad assistant to full time. Those are two really uh uncomfortable periods of time where you feel like, all right, you're working really hard, and unlike kind of when you're working a job, you're like, all right, no matter what, this is going to end. Like, no matter what, like, even if I'm great at it, like, this is an opportunity that is there's an expiration date, right? So that making that jump, I had known that staying on at Michigan when I was getting ready to graduate wasn't going to be an option. Michigan only carries one graduate assistant, and the space wasn't open. They weren't looking for somebody to fill that position. So I kind of had the year to prepare a little bit, try and reach out to everybody that I knew that might be able to help me. Got Was lucky enough to interview at places all over the country, and just with a lot of luck and a lot of good fortune, ended up somewhere that was as close to home as Florida is to me. And that's not something that I necessarily sought out at the time. I was ready to move to middle of nowhere, far away, and just with the way that life works, sometimes I ended up getting back closer to home. Connection was one of my best friends growing up had played for. Actually, Coach Golden was not the one who brought me to Florida. I was here with the previous staff as well. So Coach White, who's at Georgia now, was the one that brought me on. And one of my best friends growing up played for Coach White when he was at Louisiana Tech before he was at Florida. And his name's Speedy Smith. He plays professionally overseas, and was super supportive of me and my journey. And we talked all the time about how much I felt like I was learning and growing, and how great the opportunity was to be a manager at Michigan, and how I wanted to kind of do this full time. And he was great about putting in a word with the staff at Florida. And they originally, when I first got in touch with Florida, they told me no, that they weren't, kind of the same type of deal as Michigan, as they weren't looking for any graduate assistants. They were happy with the guys that they had. And that contact for them was during the season, like before my senior season had finished up at Michigan. And during that off season, and I had, taken that, I said, okay, great. Like even just the chance, like if you'd be willing to talk on the phone with me for a little bit, I'd be, if you're willing, I'd be very excited about the opportunity to just, connect and hear about your experience, and just talk, because and this wasn't Coach White. This was one of the members of the staff at that time, who was also at Louisiana Tech when my friend was there. And he said, sure, like I'll talk to you on the phone. But just know that there's, this isn't an interview or anything. So we'd gotten the chance to talk, and just I picked his brain and asked him questions about his path, and trying to build a relationship just for the sake of knowing somebody. This was somebody who's in a place that I want to be. Learn from him. I had a good sense that he was a pretty good guy, because my friend trusted him and referred him to me as somebody that I should talk to and get a chance to learn from. We talked for about 30 minutes, and I didn't really think anything of it. I'd moved on with my process. And then in that off season, they kind of changed course. Two of their assistant coaches had gotten head coaching jobs elsewhere. They had taken some of the previous grad assistants with them. They were like, okay, now we might need to think about bringing somebody on. I had already had that conversation with them. He felt comfortable that I was not that I was a real person, that I could hold a conversation, that I in talking to me got a sense that I like to think that I knew what I was doing a little bit. And from there got references, moved on with a more formal interview process. But because that I had reached out and built a connection just as a person that he knew, like before somebody who's just like, all right, you have a job opening and I want a job. I'm reaching out to you because you can help me. Like because I had built a connection when he couldn't do anything for me and I couldn't do anything for him. Then when the time came, it was an opportunity that I was at the front of his mind for, which I'm super grateful for. And then, like you said, like the difference between the staffs, and getting the chance to work for multiple staffs at both Michigan and at Florida was an absolutely incredible opportunity, and one that I'm super grateful for. And your role changes every year. Your role changes. It's 4 completely different programs, with those 4 head coaches, and every organizational structure is different. So getting the chance to wear a bunch of different hats is something that I'm super grateful for, and something that's definitely contributed to my growth to be a member of staff full time now.
Yeah, so with all of the experience that you've gained and all of the opportunity that you've gotten working with these different staffs and things like that, there are a lot of people out there that maybe they're just looking for a start, or maybe they're at a point in their journey that's a little earlier than yours, or maybe it's similar to where you're at, and they're just looking, to maybe move up the ladder. What's your best piece of advice through the experiences that you've gained to somebody that's looking to try to break into the basketball business?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, everybody kind of your own place in life gives you different opportunities, and I mean, first thing I would say is being a manager. I mean, if you're not a player, if you're a player, and have a mind to think about what your coaching style might be, and try and build as good of a relationship with your coaches as possible, and learn and make sure that they know what you want to do. But being in my case, that wasn't in the cards for me. Um, because I had chosen to just kind of go to school as a regular student. But being a manager, I mean, for people who are coming from the same situation that I am, or a similar one, I definitely recommend being a manager. If you're starting from scratch, that's the way to go in terms of getting your foot in the door, getting access to, well, most importantly, getting access to people that you can learn from. But along those lines, everyone's going to be different. Whatever you can do to seek mentorship, and find a place to learn, and a place to add value. The more practice that you have adding value to a program, whatever that may be, and maybe it's in a way that you don't even know that you can offer yet, but just finding a way to have access to people that you can learn from, and add value however you can. More specifically, I mean, it depends on your situation. So in the general sense, being a manager is not a very glamorous role, but it's something that a lot of the head coaches that you see, if they weren't a player, and they're probably a manager at some point. So
What's one thing you know now with where you're at that you wish you knew when you were getting started as a manager?
yeah, I think I came into basketball with a lot more nerves than I needed to. I mean, I had been such a fan for so long that, like, when I got in the building, I wasn't necessarily starstruck. I don't feel like I get starstruck necessarily, but I was very hesitant. Um, I always worked very hard, um, but I was very, quiet, and did my best to stay out of people's way, just keep my head down, get my work done, and get out of the way. And I think that when you first break in, or your first, if you're not broken in yet or whatever, but if you can strike a balance between respecting your boundaries, not being overzealous, not being annoying, but still showing your personality and building relationships on a personal level, I think that's really important.
What is the best piece of advice that you've been given by a coach or a colleague at Florida that you think has helped you sort of learn those things that you were talking about in the previous answer?
Um, Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky to be around a lot of great mentors and a lot of coaches, and I think more so than any like saying, quote, or any like piece of advice, I'd say like the opportunity to watch the way that they conduct themselves, the way they go about their business, and the way they connect with others in the program, that's the best chance that I've had to learn. But I've also been lucky enough to have a relationship with some of them, to the extent where a lot of the advice that I was looking for was specific to me and where I needed to get better, because they knew me and I knew them. um, with that being said, I think the idea of like it just kind of a general, sense of advice, or quote unquote wisdom, whatever I can um, feel comfortable that I can pass down to anybody. But I think the idea of being as present as you possibly can, and finding ways to add value to whatever program that you're a part of, is what stuck with me the most. I was lucky to be at a place where they let the managers help with video at Michigan. And whenever I was just at the facility looking for something to do, I had time to explore and tinker with the software, and all while like learning about strategy and scouting, because I was watching basketball. I was watching the way that different teams did things, the way that they played, the way that they schemed, because I was doing this work within the context of trying to prepare Michigan to win, or trying to make it easier on the coaches to prepare. Um, and that's a skill that I brought to Florida when I was able to hit the ground running without needing to be taught anything. That's of course taken me to the point where I'm at now in terms of my role as a video coordinator. But that was just an example of like, I was there. I wanted to be present as much as possible in terms of how much time I was spending at the facility, and in terms of my engagement when I was at the facility. Like, I wanted to always be there and always be doing something. And because the opportunity was given to help with video, that's where I kind of found my jumping off point, so to speak, in terms of I just wanted to add value wherever I could. Um, Video is how I added value at Michigan. Along with, if you're just around all the time, eventually things will kind of fall into your lap. People will recognize, hey, this kid's here all the time. Anything that random that comes up, I feel comfortable that he's going to be there, available, or not far away if if need be. So being present, being available. I mean, that's nothing that's super unique. I feel like anyone might I heard that. I got that drilled into my head when I was asking for advice when I was a manager. But it's really true. I mean, the more that you're around, and it's something that I tell my guys all the time. Like the more that you're around, the easier it is to trust. Because if I have something that I want to do and it's something that you can do, it's a lot easier for me to ask you if you're sitting right next to me than if you're at home and I have to call you. And chances are somebody else might be sitting right next to me already. If especially at a place like Florida where we have so many great willing guys.
So speaking of, sort of just being a sponge and being present and taking advantage of these different stops, because there's two ways you could look at it. You could look at it and be like, man, like I moved around a lot, or you could look at it and be like, this is giving me really cool opportunities to grow your network organically. Obviously, not everybody's going to be in that situation, but like,
Right.
what's your best advice? Because obviously, like the advice in life is like make connections and like reach out to people. But outside of cold emailing people or cold calling people on LinkedIn or whatever the case may be, like, what is the best way you feel like from your experience to sort of like grow that network organically?
Yeah, and I think I recognize that not everyone's going to be in a situation that I was in with being able to connect with such a wide quantity of people just from being on different staffs. But I think that throughout my process there, I learned how to be better about it because I when like I said when I first got there, I was tentative, nervous, and I don't think that um, I was at my best yet in terms of building connections with people and in a genuine way. I think. The best way to grow your network organically is just it's be genuine in your interactions with the people that you're around every day. Um, that's to me so much more important than the cold messaging and the online networking. I mean, that's part of it. You don't really know what everyone else's network looks like in real life. If you're on LinkedIn, you can see everybody else's connections or whatever, and you never know how like a connection is a connection on there. You never know how close anybody is. And you never know how close anybody that is to somebody else. Just it's something that if you worry yourself too much about it, it can definitely consume you. And it's not a place that I necessarily thrive naturally either. But while of course, like the networking piece is crucial towards climbing the ladder, quote unquote, or moving up. If your main focus is moving up the ladder, then you're doing yourself and those around you a massive disservice. Working in this industry is obviously very consuming of your time and energy. And if you're just looking for what's next, if the purpose of your relationships is transactional, then in a sense you're letting the opportunities in front of you pass you by. I mean, I love basketball and I love competition. But if I come into work every day and I'm thinking about my next steps, if I look at my assistant coaches and I look at the staff around me and I look at them as vehicles to help me get a better job, and if I look at the players as vehicles to help make the team that I'm on have a better record and a better reputation among other people in the industry, like what are you doing? Like why am I here? For first of all, it's unlikely that if kind of that's your mindset that you're doing the job as best as you can. If but also like you're not contributing to building a culture that makes everyone better. If I'm coming in every day and I'm treating everyone around here as a whole person, then not only am I probably more likely to have their support in whatever the next endeavor is, I'm also like just living a more fulfilling life and like a much more sustainable life. Like the I love basketball, I love competition, but everyone here, everyone that I'm surrounded by every day has a life outside of basketball too. Even though I'm very busy and I'm a lot of right now my life outside of basketball is more basketball when we're in the thick of the season. But it if someone kind of gets the sense that you're using them to climb the ladder, they're not as likely to help you climb the ladder. And if you're looking to climb the ladder, then you're kind of letting the opportunities and all of the kind of the beauties of every day kind of pass you by because it's not what it's all about in terms of competing every day.
A lot of gems there, Jordan. A lot of gems there on the court and off the court, man. Love to hear it. You've been super gracious with your time. We appreciate it a lot. The last thing that I want to ask you, and you mentioned a little bit of it about, your competitiveness and some of the reasons why you love, what you do on a day-to-day basis. What's your why behind why you work in basketball and why you, are chasing this profession and everything that you're doing out of Florida with Gators?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, for me, I think it's finding the balance between my give and my take to the world. It's something that's super important to me is that I'm putting myself in a position to pour into others, and feel that I'm, making the world a better place through how I utilize my passion. I love basketball. I feel like I understand the game, and the type of work that I get to do doesn't feel like work. I can get up in the morning and I can be excited, and sometimes there are nights when I can't go to sleep because my mind won't let me until I knock a few more things out or if I find an answer to something. But the beautiful part about that is, with being in basketball and being in something that I love, um, all of it's within the context of making other people better. I feel that what I'm doing, even if it's math or if it's making a PowerPoint or if it's organizing video, it's all done in an effort to help people that I know and people that I care about um, reach their full potential. So in that sense, I feel like the this career path is satisfying that goal for me and giving to the world because I really care about the players. As people, and I want to see them succeed. I really care about the coaches that I work for, and I want to see them succeed. I really care about the managers and everybody else, and I want to do whatever I can to make their endeavors or their pursuits successful. And uh, so in that sense, like that's what I want. I always want to be in a place where I'm giving to the world, and then and kind of on the other hand, it's like I life is short. I mean, I'm not, I give to others, but also like I'm in a position where like, all right, I was on the floor during an overtime game at Rupp Arena last week. I got to celebrate in that locker room with friends, with people who I know, who I love, who I know their families. I've been, I've celebrated in the locker room at Assembly Hall. I've been a part of teams who have made runs to the NCAA tournament. I like I grew up watching people that did that, and now I get to be a part of it. I can pull up to a practice facility late at night and get up shots in a high major practice facility. I travel the country with people that I care about, and all my meals are included. As often as you hear about it from people in basketball, like the game has really given me so many blessings. So in that sense, that's kind of the balance. Is like, yeah, like I'm pouring my all into others, but it's a give and take, in that like I soak in these experiences as much as possible because I know how fortunate I am to be in a position where I have them. So making the most of the experiences that I have, and making memories is very important to me also. So I always kind of think of it as the balance between the give and take.
Jordan, love it, man. And shout out to you and the Gators on that big time win at Kentucky.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That must have been, like you said, like those are the moments you don't get into this like expecting those to happen, but man, it's got to be rewarding when you are in that locker room, and you just as much as what you're doing on the video side, and the coaches doing what they do and the players doing what they do. It's all that's the great part about sports. You know what I mean? Especially when you work for a team, is everybody's doing some kind of job to make it happen. So it makes those moments even more special, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I'm in a place where it's definitely ultimately kind of a not about me thing. Like, I mean, I'm the video coordinator. I'm just doing what I can to help. But it you're human a little bit. Like, it feels good to walk out and be a part of something that it's incredible to get so many people in one place cheering for the same thing. The to kind of feel that energy is something that's super special and that I don't take for granted. Um, but being in a place where I can help others and help them achieve their goals and fulfill their full potential is something that I'd be passionate about, whether or not it had to do with basketball. And something that I'm super grateful that there's an overlap between something like basketball that I love that gives me the opportunity to kind of do both.
Awesome stuff, Jordan. Jordan Jacobson, everybody, University of Florida head video coordinator. Jordan, thanks again so much for joining the show.
Thank you, Blake.
And thank you for watching and listening to University of Hoops. We are the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of your favorite basketball team every single week with content on our YouTube channel at Univ Hoops. That's at UNIV Hoops. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and now on TikTok. Our handle is the same across all social platforms. Again, that's at UNIV Hoops. Got interviews with amazing people like Jordan every single week at the college level, the G League level, the NBA level, taking you behind the scenes letting these people share their stories and hopefully help you out there to chase whatever it is that you're chasing in your life, especially if you're a hoops head like we are here at the show and like Jordan is and all of our guests are here on the show. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Blake Atwell, and we will see you on the next edition of University of Hoops.